Hi, this is Pam from Hooked on Sewing. In this video tutorial, I'd like to show you how to sew a reversible placemat. First, let's take a look at the supplies that you'll need. I like to use a rotary cutter, an acrylic ruler, a cutting mat. You'll also want to have a pair of scissors handy to have by your sewing machine, a bone folder, a metal ruler or gauge, some thread, and a pre-wound bobbin, or go ahead and wind some thread on your bobbin. The first thing that you'll want to do is to cut out your fabric. Now, depending on what size placemat you want to make and how many will determine how many pieces of fabric that you cut out. I am sewing 4 placemats, so I'm going to have 4 pieces of fabric cut out for each of my placemats. I'll have 4 for the top, 4 for the bottom, and 4 pieces of fusible fleece. Now be sure to read the manufacturer's instructions for the fusible fleece that you use. This is Fusible Thermalone Plus. One side of this is bumpy and has a texture to it. That is the fusible side. The other side is a little bit smoother. You can't really tell by this video, but one side has the fusible side. So you will lay that face up, the fusible side up on your ironing board, and your fabric face, or the wrong side, down. And then you'll take a damp cloth and put it over top of the fabric. And then you'll take your iron and hold it for about 10 seconds in each spot, covering the entire placemat. And again, I'm not really gliding, I'm kind of pressing, lifting, moving, pressing, lifting, moving, pressing, until I have covered the entire piece of fabric for my placemat. And there I have my fleece nice and fused to the back of my fabric. The next thing I'm going to do is to take my fabric that's been fused with the back side of my other piece of fabric, and I'm going to put those together, right sides together. So I'm going to clip the fabric pieces right sides together. Now I'm going to leave an opening on the side, one of the short ends of my placemat, for turning the placemats inside and out. So however you want to mark that, you just need to be sure to leave approximately a 3-inch opening on one of the short ends of your placemat. I like to use these Wonder Clips, and I've just put them all the way around my placemat. So here's the side where I'm going to start sewing and where I'm going to leave my opening. So you can use a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch seam allowance, whatever you like to sew with. And the beginning of your stitch, you want to back stitch a little bit to reinforce your seams. When you get to the corner, stop with your needle down, raise your presser foot, and rotate your fabric counterclockwise. Then I'm going to continue sewing along my seam gauge on my presser plate and when I get to the corner, I'll do the same thing with my needle down. I'll raise the presser foot and then rotate my fabric. I'll continue down the other short side, and when I get to the corner, I'll do the same thing. Stop with the needle down, raise my presser foot, rotate my fabric. I'm going to sew along the other long edge, and then when I reach the corner, I'm going to stop when I'm about 1/2 inch away from the corner, raise my presser foot, and rotate my fabric. Now I'm going to stop so that I'm leaving a 3-inch gap, and I reinforced by back stitching my stitches. Now I'm just trimming off some of the long threads that were left behind. Step 4, we're going to trim our corners so that we have nice pointy corners when we turn our placemats right side out. So I snip across the corner, and then I snip at an angle. So snip across the corner and then snip at an angle on each side of that corner. That will help to remove the bulk from the corner. There. Now once I have all 4 corners trimmed, I'm going to turn my fabric right side out. So I put my hand inside the opening that I left and turn everything right side out. Kind of use my fingers to press out the corners, then I'll use my little bone folder to kind of push out the corners even more. And then I'm going to take my placemat over to my ironing board and I'm going to press those seams really nicely so that it all lays nice and flat. And then the opening that I left, I'm going to make sure that I turn that inside and press it. And then when I do my top stitching in the next step, it will close up that opening. And I'm just going to go ahead and press it on the other side too. So there you have it. Now take it back over to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the fabric. I'm going to lengthen my stitch to about 3.0 and I'm going to reinforce my beginning and my ending stitches. So I did a little reinforcement stitch there, and when I get to the corner with my needle down, I'll raise my presser foot, rotate my fabric, and then sew down the other edge. I'll repeat that for the other corners and the other edges of the fabric. Now when I get back to the beginning, I'm going to reinforce those stitches as well. So rotate my fabric, stitch along the third side. Again, I'm stitching about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the fabric. That way when I stitch, I will also close the opening that I left in my fabric for turning it, the placemats, right side out. And then I'm just going to do a quick back stitch to reinforce my stitches, trim any threads. And I'm going to do a second row of stitches. This time I'm doing it 3/4 of an inch from the edge of the fabric. I think this just adds a nice decorative touch to the placemats and gives it a more polished look. You don't have to do this, but like I said, I think it adds a nice touch. So there you have it, and there you can see my 2 rows of stitching. I did that all the way around the placemat and then just repeated it for each placemat that I made. There's the other side of my fabric. Now you can use matching thread, contrasting thread, you can even use decorative stitches if you want. Thank you so much for watching this video tutorial. I hope it was helpful to you. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like it below and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you'll be notified when new tutorials are available. Thank you so much.